This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about lost Bitcoin and the money supply. This is actually a fascinating topic, though it may sound a little bit dry on the surface. If you stick with me, I think you'll learn some interesting things. Lost Bitcoin is just Bitcoin that can no longer be sent or spent because the private keys to it have been lost, and you need the private keys to sign a transaction in order to move any Bitcoin. According to this article from river.com, approximately, it's estimated, these are just estimates, but approximately 5 million Bitcoin have been lost. If you include Satoshis, approximately 1 million Bitcoin. So that would lower the maximum supply of Bitcoin effectively from 21 million to 16 million. This video is inspired by a couple of questions from Stultus S, which is a great YouTube username. It means you're stupid in Latin. And he or she asks, Matt, what's your view on lost Bitcoin? I saw a distribution graphic the other day. I was surprised that 17% of Bitcoin is declared lost. This is unsustainable in my opinion and is the Achilles heel of Bitcoin. Do you know of any program in place to return lost Bitcoin to the free pool, say if a wallet has not been touched in, say, 70 years? A system that has continual leakage will not survive. I would say things are not quite as bleak as that, because when you think about it, and this is something that Satoshi himself taught us in one of his posts, lost Bitcoin are effectively a pro-rata distribution of wealth to all Bitcoiners who have not lost their private keys. In other words, what the system does is it distributes wealth from careless and irresponsible people to careful and more responsible people, which when you think about it is the exact opposite of how modern social welfare states and programs usually work. Is it easy to identify Bitcoin that has been lost? It's definitely not. In fact, it's usually impossible to prove that spending keys to a Bitcoin address have been lost, even if the holder claims that this has happened, say in a boating accident, because of course the holder might be lying, and just because the coins haven't moved in a very long time or even ever, this can't be taken as proof that they might not someday move, since the holder could still have the private keys necessary to sign a Bitcoin transaction. There are Bitcoin that are provably lost, since generating one of these vanity addresses by trying to guess it using various private keys would presumably take more computing power than anyone has access to. For example, there's this Bitcoin eater address, one Bitcoin eater address, don't send, and then sort of a checksum on the end. And people have sent over 13 Bitcoin to this address. You should not send Bitcoin to this address because it will be burned. It will be lost forever. But this is an example of Bitcoin that is certainly lost forever. The other part of this question, do you know of any program in place to return lost Bitcoin to the free pool? In other words, sort of the free circulating pool if a wallet has not been touched in 70 years. And I would say, no, there is no program like this. And I would never, 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 ever support a change to the protocol that would do something like this. There's a name for this, and that's called theft. What if someone has been quietly hodling for 70 years and then passes on their private keys to their children? Does that give any of us the right to change the protocol in order to steal the children's Bitcoin simply because the coins haven't moved in over 70 years? And then what about Satoshi's estimated 1 million Bitcoin? Should we steal from the founder who gave us the gift of Bitcoin? Presumably those coins will never move, but this is still, they belong to Satoshi, and we should not steal from him or change the protocol to steal from him or anyone else. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support the channel by subscribing. That really, really helps the channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future topic, and share this video with a friend or family member as well. The commenter said also a system that has continual leakage will not survive. And while this may be true when it comes to plumbing, it's not true when it comes to money. In fact, you could run the entire global economy using just one Bitcoin if you needed to, assuming that you could subdivide that one Bitcoin into as many smaller pieces as you needed. You can already divide a Bitcoin, or a Bitcoin is comprised of 100 million Satoshis, and it would be fairly easy, since this is software code, to divide it into smaller pieces. And so a system that has continual leakage will not survive is just not true when it comes to Bitcoin. It's actually Keynesian propaganda, in my opinion, that the world needs a constantly increasing money supply in order to accommodate a growing global economy. This is something you'll often hear from Bitcoin critics, and all of them are Keynesians who believe in this sort of magical economics that only really works in university departments. This is nothing more, this Keynesian propaganda is nothing more than an economic myth that was developed to give bankers an excuse to run the money printers on high and to thus steal from all of us through monetary debasement. So there are two ways you can grow the money supply of an economy. You can have bankers print more of the stuff out of thin air, which is what politicians and bankers like the most, or you can allow the free market to adjust the value of each unit of money upwards or downwards as necessary. So you can have a fixed supply and just have the price of each unit go up, and this will increase the market cap of the currency or the money supply, in other words. When the value of each unit of Bitcoin goes from 63,000, where it is approximately today, to 630,000 in 10x's, the market cap of Bitcoin, in other words, the money supply, will go from approximately 1.2 trillion to approximately 12 trillion, which is roughly the existing market cap of gold today. And at one point, gold was the monetary standard for the global economy. So this is clearly something that's possible. And this is how the money supply can increase without needing to print more units. You can still have 16 million units or 21 million units or whatever it is, and the price of Bitcoin will go up or down to accommodate what the economy needs. This is allowing free market money. This is the point at which Keynesians of all stripes will say, but having the value of money go up, isn't this deflationary and destructive to an economy? I would say definitely not. Deflation means that the prices of goods and services are falling, and only an economist or a central banker would think that that's a bad thing, because what technological progress is, it's doing more with less, which inevitably leads to falling prices. So for example, the Apollo 11 guidance computer for that trip in space had about 12,250 flops, which is floating point operations per second, and the modern Apple iPhone 12 is 900 million times more powerful than that, and obviously it just costs just a small fraction of the amount of money. So this is what deflation looks like. Deflation is a very good thing, where now everyone can have an Apollo 11 equivalent computer, much more powerful, in their pockets, whereas it used to be that only the US government and NASA had it. So deflation is actually only dangerous if you have a lot of debt, since falling prices, especially if wages are falling, this can make it impossible to pay off that debt. Inflation is the friend of debtors, like big wasteful governments, which is why they like inflation. Deflation is the enemy of those with a lot of debt. But deflation caused by technological innovation is very good for human flourishing. That $100 tank of gas can reliably take you and your car up a large mountain. Now try doing the same for $100 with hired men and horses. It'll take much longer, it'll be much more difficult, and it'll be much more expensive. We know from history that a civilization that's built on hard money, on sound money, that cannot be devalued away by bankers, is actually a very nice place to live in. It's a civilization where innovation leads to lower prices and a higher standard of living, since the economic value being created accrues to the money rather than being surreptitiously siphoned off, in other words, stolen by bankers and politicians to fund government deficit spending. A civilization on sound money is like the late 19th century, early 20th century, before this virus of central banks had spread globally. This was an era of tremendous flourishing in the arts and sciences, an era where our current civilization was created, where we had, for the first time, we had electricity for homes and businesses. We had the telephone, the light bulb, the automobile, the airplane. These are all products of a society on sound money. Human ingenuity and technological progress is what's actually responsible for true economic growth, not bankers in a back room expanding the money supply by printing more units. The latter is the worst kind of magical thinking, and it's a sign of the world that we live in, that so many people think that this is actually true, when it's clearly false. The world on a Bitcoin standard is going to be a very beautiful place to live. So I say, let's put the era of dirty fiat behind us once and for all. Bitcoin is the solution. We're not going back to putting shiny yellow rocks on airplanes and using them to settle trade imbalances as we did in the age of the gold standard. Bitcoin, rather, is the solution for a prosperous digital 21st century economy. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.